Very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And March wears on already. Welcome again to your perfect morning starter. Wherever you're watching us from, it promises to be yet another incisive edition. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Kayode Okikulu. We continue to follow events in the Middle East after the U.S.-Israel attacked Iran. And of course, Iran has been attacking all of the U.S. bases, U.S. affiliated areas in the Middle East around it. And what a day it was yesterday. U.S. President Donald Trump addressing the nation, essentially speaking to the rationale. For a lot of people, it's still not quite clear. Then we had Peter Hegseth speaking earlier on. That's the U.S. Secretary of Defense speaking about the motivation, saying the U.S. did not start the war, but the U.S. will finish it. He was a bit fiery. It was scary, really, for a lot of people watching, thinking, are we inching towards World War III? But then it took Marco Rubio much later in the day to give some more insight. That's the U.S. Secretary of State. And he said that, well, the rationale behind that attack on Iran by Israel and U.S. was that the U.S. anticipated that Israel was going to attack Iran anyway, and they figured that, well, if there's an attack on Iran, then there's going to be some sort of retaliatory attack that will affect the U.S. So Marco Rubio described it as some form of preemptive attack, right? And now it looks like Israel is the one dictating the terms now from what he said. But he had said if they had not done anything, that there will be hearings on Capitol Hill. They will say, well, you knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you do anything? So it looks like the more we hear from the officials, the more it is uncertain what this is about, when this will end, and if there would really be peace in the nearest future. But we can tell you indeed that Iran continues to attack U.S. affiliated areas. We understand that the U.S. Embassy in Beirut has also been attacked. Things are moving really fast, we must say. So far, 6 American military personnel have so far been killed, and you saw some of them being ejected from that aircraft yesterday in a friendly fire. That's what it's been described as. But clearly, this is impacting the world economically, the price of oil. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it looks like things might get worse from here, guys.
Indeed, there's more that we know. Other economies in the Gulf nations have also been hit. We understand that, airlines and, air travel has seriously been hit in the United Arab Emirates. We also understand that the members of the Gulf Cooperation Council are accusing Iran of violating their sovereignty. Of course, U.S. President Donald Trump has, ignored questions on Iran, but he has promised that, he will not rule out the possibility of putting more boots on ground. And, these Gulf nations, they have built their economies beyond oil and gas, on other aspects of economy. So even though these nations are not necessarily the enemy of Iran, that's my question this morning, and I wonder how you guys are weighing on it. And Iran is attacking U.S. installations in these Gulf nations of Kuwait, Beirut, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar. How will
and
they...
Riyadh, I should say.
And Saudi Arabia, yes. We also heard reports about the refinery that was hit also by Iran. So how would they respond, in this war? Would it be on the side of the United States of America, or are they going to queue up regardless, behind their co-Arab nation, knowing full well that some of their own, the attacks were happening on their own soil, and as a result, their economies have been hit? So I wonder how you're weighing in on this. And then we ask, again, more importantly, does Iran have the firepower to sustain this onslaught, beyond this period, perhaps the next 3 months, perhaps the next 6 months, knowing the scale of, technology that has been deployed to prosecute this warfare, guys?
It's interesting what's playing out eventually. But I don't see Iran backing down. It's more of an ideological warfare for them. So I don't see them backing down. I just hope that this doesn't escalate even further. That is the wider implication. Would it escalate further? We do not know. We're all watching with bated breath to see how the United States will continue in collaboration with Israel to see how they can prosecute this to the best of their ability. But depending on where you're looking at, United States and Israel, they have their own idea of what this war is about. Nukes, enriching materials, uranium, for instance, stockpiling materials, not allowing Iran to develop any form of nuclear, whether it's for commercial reasons or they don't trust Iran, first and foremost. But Iran, given the revolution that came in 1979, it's clear for them that this, maybe the Shiite nations of Islam are saying this is more of a religious war against our way of life. So when you speak to the Iranians, perhaps, who are revolutionaries, who are loyal to people like the Ali Khamenei, who the Ayatollah who has now been killed, and several other persons, it may be more of an ideological warfare than even fight around whether you have nuclear weapons or you don't have nuclear weapons. That's why they have what they call the axis of resistance across the region, from Hezbollah to Hamas to Houthi to some places in Pakistan and Syria and all of those places. Perhaps it's also why you have Israel, America have bases to keep them at bay. So everything is being strategic, and there will be collateral damage, like we've seen. I think one of the Aramco facility in Saudi Arabia that was hit by Iranian drone. We've also seen Iranian drones penetrate, whether it's the Iron Dome or the air defense system of Israel, because when they fire those barrages, how many can you really stop? So there's enough blame to go around as far as this is concerned, and motivation for everybody's action. But the most important thing is that the world wants peace. There's a very huge price the world will pay if this is not resolved as quickly as possible. And I want to say that, do I see this being resolved as quickly as possible? It depends on the scale of further destruction that we may see, that may make everybody say, okay, I think we need to get a room and have a conversation.
So that's where we're at right now. Things are moving quite fast, unprecedented times we're in. But we'll continue to follow, see how it affects Nigeria as well, and especially for Nigerian citizens, some of them caught up in countries in the Gulf, and it's important to ensure that the government is able to protect them. But that is it so far. But let's come back home and speak to security issues as well. Last week saw an attack on ADC chieftains in Edo State. Mr. Peter Obi, Chief John Odigio-Yegun. Well, the DSS, that's the Department of State Service, has arrested a man suspected to be behind the recent attack on 2023 presidential candidate of Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, in Benin City, the Edo State capital. Mr. Obi, of course, a former governor, and Chief John Odigio-Yegun, yet another former governor and former chairman of the APC, and several chieftains of the opposition ADC were attacked, including Olumide Akpata, who was, of course, moving into the ADC. This attack happened on February the 24th by armed men who fired several gunshots shortly after the party's meeting in the state. And a lot of people then went on to dig out the post of this suspect. This post was put just after that attack. The user is at Steve Tom 7. That should be 788, right? There you go, Steve Tom 788, and that's what you have. Him saying, we warned Obi against his entrance into Edo State, but he mistook our resolve to, that's the term he used, idiot online noise. Thank his stars he survived this one.
Well, he goes on to say, I learned he's going to my river state. No wahala. Now my men go handle that one and them no go miss target. Speak no peace to, well, he goes on to say those things that he said and he goes on to say the things that he said. The question is, who are we when this user first says we warned Obi against his entrance? So who are we? It appears that this user has ties with Edo State and also has ties with River State. Now, the language deployed also is one of hostility, and it also, is reflective of the divisiveness in the nation's polity. Of course, we must speak to the facts. We must speak to the background before this visit to Edo State that saw the attack of leaders of the African Democratic Congress. Now that a young man has been arrested in connection with the attack, it's important also that, he's prosecuted, he's investigated, prosecuted, and whoever it is that has sponsored this attack is identified and determined. Then we can now get to the politics of it all and weighing on the resolve of the Edo State government to have any politician, without necessarily being specific about Mr. Peter Obi of the ADC, now formerly of the LP, to notifying the government before visiting Edo State for any of his future political engagements or otherwise. Of course, we know the politics behind this all with the ruling party and the African Democratic Congress. But should politics be divisive? Should politics deploy negative language that threatens? Should politics descend so low to becoming a do or die affair? That is what we should frown on and place a very huge question mark on and condemn in its entirety.
It's condemnable. I'm happy the DSS has swooped in. I don't know whether they swooped in because of his post or is directly connected with the incident. But since he was bold enough to put out a post threatening anyone in a sovereign state who has the fundamental right to go anywhere within the country because he has a right of movement, I think he should, they say if you do the crime, you should be able to do the time. He will have a lot of questions. I think he's giving the vibe that he represents Niger Delta. I don't know who made him the leader of the Niger Delta in that sense. So since he's done this, well, he should answer for himself and tell the security agencies exactly who he's speaking for, whether he's speaking for himself. But this is one thing I know for sure. He's gotten himself in a loop that'll be very difficult. He's going to explain himself beyond reasonable doubt for the security agencies to be able to allow him to go anywhere. And this is a warning to anybody who is careless with whatever they write on social media. Except he means it. Well, if he meant it, good luck to him. He will have his day in court. He will have his day in jail if they follow through to be able to establish a case against him. But what he did was absolutely irresponsible, condemnable, and not acceptable in any society. Leadership is not war. Elections and politics, they are not war. It's just divergent ideas on how to solve the same problem. And so that is not a responsible citizen of Nigeria. And so since he decided to be irresponsible, well, good luck. Him and the security agencies, we wish them well.
So we'll continue to follow that, and let's also tell you that the Nigeria Police Council yesterday unanimously ratified the appointment of Olatunji Disu as the Inspector General of Police. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Abayo Onanuga, the endorsement has paved the way for his swearing-in by President Bola Tinubu tomorrow, and the ceremony will take place during the Federal Executive Council meeting, which is scheduled for the same day. So these are some of the big stories in Nigeria today, but we have more for you in a moment as we take a look at the front pages. Stay with us. Well, let's get right into it. We're joined by Mr. Adeni Fetayo, Public Affairs Analyst, joins us virtually on the program. Well, Mr. Fetayo, good morning. Welcome to the program. We're starting off with New Telegraph newspaper, and New Telegraph leads with, well, the biggest story globally now, a Middle East conflict. Protests erupt in Lagos, Kano, Sokoto over a killing of Khamenei. Oil and gas prices soar as Iran strikes Qatar Saudi energy site. Dangote refinery raises pump price by 101 naira. Global stock market crashes. New Iran Supreme Leader Alireza Rafi reportedly eliminated in fresh U.S.-Israeli airstrikes hours after emergence. And you have all of these stories. As we've said, things moving really fast. A lot of these stories come out and then you have to verify. But Mr. Fetayo, we're seeing protests in Lagos, Kano, Sokoto over the killing of Iran's supreme leader. How much of an impact do you see this having on Nigeria?
First and foremost, I think the first time or I stand to be corrected that somebody will have Nigeria will be taking paracetamol for it. But regardless, I believe that because of the Middle East crisis, of course, there's always a casualty of war and there's those who benefit from it. And I've not really seen much of the protests. Just one or two one video that I saw. And I can't verify whether it's in Kano or Sokoto, but whatever it is, because of religion affiliation, some people tend to have that sympathy when one of their people who they consider spiritual leaders are being affected or went through some ordeal. So it is expected, but I don't think there's any benefit that Nigeria can derive from it. Going about the truth. But talking about the in the crude oil, of course, it's just for us to manage whatever it is we get. There will always be a rainy season, there will always be a dry season. So how you manage your rainy season will determine what you do with your dry season. Another thing I even wanted to talk about is the issue of Nigeria, living in Middle East. I heard someone saying that no Nigeria has contacted them. I think they don't need to wait, just like US. When there's issue like this, they send a message to their citizens, calling upon them, ways to get help or to get. So I think Nigeria can do that, but protest it will not help us in any way.
Well, that's exactly what Vanguard is reporting.
Hello, can you hear me?
Indeed, we can hear you, Mr. Adeni. I was saying that, the Vanguard has reported, the situation that you just talked about this way. No distress calls yet from Nigerians in Iran that's ascribed to the federal government. And there are some riders coming through also here. Shiite protest attacks on Iran in Lagos. Well, I'll take that again. Shiites protest attacks on Iran in Lagos. That would be the Vanguard newspaper. There's also conflict spread to Lebanon as Iran strikes Saudi Arabia. Qatar energy sites. Kuwait erroneously downs U.S. jets, and war fears deepen as France allies back Gulf states. Polish envoy backs Nigeria's restraint, urges ceasefire. Of course, you've talked about, the need for the federal government to be proactive rather than reactive instead of waiting for, distress calls from Nigerians in Iran. But certainly, added to that mix is the state currently of Nigerians in other Gulf states, like the United Arab Emirates, like Qatar. There are quite a number of Nigerians in those countries. You could talk about Bahrain as well. I'd like you to also speak to the entry, of the other states, Western states in this war. We've seen that that Britain has also been drawn into this war, and we're hearing now that France allies are backing Gulf states. What are the implications, for this, for the war in the coming months? Is it ending anytime soon?
No, I'm not seeing it ending anytime soon because in retaliation, Iran too also targeted some of these U.S. assets in some of these Gulf states. And of course, just like I said, there's always a casualty of war. And regardless of whatever the intent when President Donald Trump was saying that in 4 weeks, I didn't even see this coming to an end in 4 weeks because there will be, it will snowball to another war, especially you know that what do they call it, Strait of Hormuz, where Japan, India, China, they get the supply, most of their supply of oil and gas, from that route. And Iran has planned that they are going to shut down any ship that try to, supply or bring in or take out any form of oil and gas. So it's going to escalate. It will affect economy, and just like I said, the increases in pump price in some of these nations of the world is going to go up higher. And like I mentioned earlier on, Nigerian government, they just need to be proactive, send the message, to them. What can we do? We know in the terms of war, there's a negotiation. I'm sure there might be a 3 days or 2 days or 1 day ceasefire for foreign nationals who want to take their baggage and leave the war zone. But I just pray that they make the best of it. But I'm not seeing it come to an end in the next 4 weeks, just like President Donald Trump has said. And you have seen that Britain, they are giving support to America because they asked for it, they are an ally. And also France said they choose to back the people in the Gulf state. So it's going to escalate to different war here there. But I just hope that the federal government do the needful, especially Nigeria, because they need to. Don't say that they did not call for you. There's no distress call yet from Nigerians in Iran. Look at other states, just like you said, Qatar is there, Bahrain is there, Saudi Arabia is there, etc., etc. So they should also, even in Israel as well, and America as well. So I'm sure they should also look for a way to get across to Nigerians and bring them home safely.
Let's look at this. Nigeria's inflation may rise over U.S.-Iran conflict. Research Center warns what Nigeria could gain from elevated crude prices will be lost to inflation and attendant economic hardship. This is a recurrent decimal. It's almost, I don't want to call it occurrence orthodoxy, because we're big on export of oil. Whenever there's conflict in the Middle East, it's windfall for us. We earn more FX in that sense because, the prices of crude oil, as we all know, will go up. But the knock-on effect is just like what we see with the Dangote refinery, though supply is guaranteed due to some level of energy security, but we'll have to pay more for petroleum products, and that impact literally has a knock-on effect literally on everything, which is why the fears of inflation. But what do you make of it?
Yes. For me, just like I said, there's always a rainy season. There's always a dry season. Whatever gain you can make from it, especially microeconomy, how you can give them an enabling environment to thrive. And thank God that we even have Dangote refinery that will not much depend on the importation, but also selling our crude oil. Just like I said, it's going to be a rainfall for us. It depends on how the government will be able to manage it. Inflation is been coming down, going up, but just like the analysts are saying on research center ones that inflation may rise over, because we expected that to happen. But whatever it is, just like I said, in any war, there will always be a casualty. There will always be some people that will try for gain from it. But now depends how you are able to manage it, that Nigeria will be able to feel the impact positively, and that could be something that, especially in the rising of crude prices, and the way they will manage it and the way they will use it, that impacts when it comes to infrastructure development, when it comes to enabling the environment, when it comes to some form of incentive and all of that. It all lies on the government, the way they be able to manage the gains and the loss of these conflicts between US and Iran.
And these are also learning moments for nations across the world. And I think it's important to see what's playing out and learn from it, use it for the future. Because from what we see, it is a country with the might that usually dictates what is right and what is wrong. The UN can speak from today till tomorrow, but it boils down to that military might. Mr. Fetayo, we have to thank you so much for your time on the program as we continue to watch events unfold globally. Mr. Adini Fetayo, Public Affairs Analyst, thank you for your time once again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So let's switch gears now and take a look at what is really happening in the Middle East. And we'll be speaking in a moment to Channels TV correspondent who will be giving us insights as to the events in the UAE and in other countries in the Middle East after we've seen retaliatory attacks from Iran on literally all of the countries around it. So let's speak with our correspondent. We're joined live by Maiwa, but Bukola.
Yes, indeed, Maiwa, it's good to see you. It's a very, very concerning situation now globally. In Africa, there is a big concern about the consequences of this war. How much more, what it looks like in the Middle East. So I'd like to start with asking you to give us a sense of what the socio-political atmosphere is, first of all, in the United Arab Emirates, where you are, with regards to the continuing Iran strikes and, of course, the resolve of the U.S. to continue this war as well.
Indeed, the times in the region, and particularly in the UAE, where as a representation of its nations who are practically sleeping and having to deal with sounds of explosion day in, day out, and explosions have not stopped here in the UAE. Matter of fact, residents in the Abu Dhabi area did report that all night they heard a lot of explosions, and of course we do understand that those explosions are sounds from the missiles being intercepted. It's been a tough couple of days. It's now entering its day 4. Of course, the UAE government continues to assure not just residents or visitors, but the world that it has a situation in hand and that they're quite capable to keep their territory protected from all these aerial attacks coming over from Iran. As of this moment, our latest reports that we have state that over 170 ballistic missiles have been sent to the UAE, majority of them intercepted, about 13 impacted in the area, but finally reporting that they fell into the sea. You have 8 cruise missiles, all of them successfully intercepted, and over 680 drones that have been sent our way. About 44 of those were not successfully intercepted and impacted in state territory. So these are the figures we have so far from the government. Aviation Authority is trying to safely start some flights. So we're told that exceptional flights have begun. And so pretty much these are more repatriation flights. Of course, we do know that the U.S. State Department is advising Americans in the region, 14 countries in the region, to depart immediately. And the UK is also making plans to get its citizens out. Most of them visitors who are here, because this is high tourist season, the weather is fantastic. So a lot of people are here visiting, but of course are now caught in this. A bit of panic, of course, for people who are visiting, because hey, you come to have a great time and you end up maybe sheltering in the basement of a hotel. That's not what you bargain for. So a lot of people are sort of in a panic to get back to their respective nations. Of those flights, we know that India is also working to get its citizens out of the country, and they are already operating some flights. So it's a mixed bag of emotions. On the side of the residents, many people have continued to express confidence in the government, and I've put a bit of context to that. If you were here during COVID, as a resident, you saw how the government handled that situation brilliantly. And if you were here during the floods, that plagued the UAE many months ago, again, those were not things we were used to in the nation. So if you experience just how the government responded to that crisis, it now makes sense that residents are a bit more confident in the government, because over the years, they've seen how the government has responded and tackled major crises. So there's a bit of soft landing. Of course, everyone's concerned. People are getting calls and messages from various parts of the world saying, "Are you safe?" And yes, the general feeling is of safety. However, yes, people are mostly indoors. Schools are still not open. People are advised to work from home, but yes, there is vehicular movement. Some people are going to work. This is what we're having to deal with right now. But I can only imagine what the government itself is having to deal with. On the one hand, it is trying to protect the nation from these aerial attacks. On the other, it's trying to make sure that your nation keeps its dignity. As I said earlier, it is known as one of the safest nations in the world. And that is sort of like the background, the foundation of their bread and butter. And so it would be great to see how they handle that.
Well, that's a bit reassuring amid the circumstances. Well, as far as, the state of Africans in these countries are concerned, from, where we stand, what we're hearing from the federal government is that there is no distress call yet from Nigerians in Iran. But if, residents are expressing confidence in the ability of the government to manage this, from antecedent, what is the feeling in the Nigerian community in the UAE? Are they reposing same measure of confidence amid this crisis, or there is some discomfort and expression of interest to return home?
So far, I think feeling the pulse of people, seeing what people are posting online. For the UAE, it's the same across board, Nigerians as well. They are quite confident in the government, and it is how proactive the government has been sharing what is happening and what to do. On the other hand, I'm not sure if you can say the same for people like those in Bahrain. Of course, each person to their own, but Bahrain is not the same as the UAE, and perhaps does not have the same capabilities as the UAE. And don't forget that if you're getting a lot more sort of on-ground impact, then the feeling might be very different. It's different here in the UAE because the on-ground impact is not as much. But if, for instance, in Bahrain, people are getting much more impacted on the ground, of course, we can excuse and we can understand that panic would be, different, and the feeling of safety would be very different. But overall, from just feeling the pulse in different communities and from different platforms, I'm not seeing any panic to say, okay, we need those flights to go home right away. But of course, everyone's keeping a close eye on the situation. People are hoping it de-escalates. From news and what we're getting from the United States, that's not the sense of, it de-escalating. And of course, Iran as well is not relenting. So it is keeping an eye on things, and hopefully they de-escalate rather than escalate.
Well, that is a hope, but with incidents like this war, you expect the worst, right? But of course, you also anticipate that things will get better. And I wonder what the general feeling is. Dubai is considered one of the safest places in the world. I mean, there are people who even say they prefer to be in Dubai amidst all of this than in any other part of the world because they have that confidence. But really, how long do you see this lasting? And do you think the government of the UAE is really preparing for long term? I'm not sure they've been tested this much in recent history, having to defend themselves this much. And you've had a lot of this country say, now we have a right to respond, right? We've been defending, but maybe we'll get to that attack mode. So do you think that that is on the table? And how do you see this progressing?
Ready. Yes.
Oh dear, Maiwa, we lost you momentarily there, the audio, but we'll try to reconnect. But it's important to get that part of the story from you, because you, have a link with the government, you understand the thinking, you've been following the development. So it's important to also know the posturing of the government regarding this, because so far it's been more defending. Now, we don't know what it would look like once they switch gears to attack mode, but our correspondent, Maiwa Adegoke, right there in Dubai, giving us updates. We'll definitely still get some more from her. But Maiwa, you can go ahead now. I really hope that that's been sorted.
Okay. I was saying, as you mentioned, that never been listed in this manner. However, the government insists that it's able and ready to defend its territory. And also bear in mind that the UAE is not the only nation in the Middle East sort of experiencing this. And there's been support from across the world, multiple leaders in conversation with the UAE president and, of course, with other governments in the region. So this is a time, I would say, for alliance to be tested. This is a time for instance, America to prove that it will stand by the nations that it aligns with. So it really is a test of that relationship and not just a test of UAE's capabilities to defend itself. As I said, government insists and says it is ready to continue defending itself. A couple of hours ago, about yesterday evening, there was a joint statement from a number of nations in the region condemning Iran's attacks. So time will tell. Does anyone want to find out how long the UAE can hold out, how nations around can hold out? Nobody wants to find out. And I'm sure not even the UAE wants to find out how long you will have to hold out. So let's see how well this alliance fares in this condition. But one thing I will say is that if we know anything about the UAE, this will give the UAE more reason to go back to the drawing board and prepare better for the future. Every challenge, every crisis, we've seen how they've gone back to the drawing board to sort of be more prepared for future incidences. So I believe this is one that will help the UAE become an even stronger nation, I believe.
Let me get this one in just before we, let you go for the morning, Maiwa. It's easy to run away with the declaration of the official disposition of governments in the UAE or in the Middle East region, but let's get a sense of what the people themselves feel, their own personal disposition, from what you're hearing from nationals, towards this war, and indeed about the tensions in the Middle East. Not just from this, but also, the reactions towards the war between Gaza and Israel, the Hamas government in Palestine and Israel.
Thank you, Bukola. Honestly, it goes without saying, hearing bombs go off, morning, afternoon, or night, having children who have never experienced any such thing, it is new. And so even as an adult, you try to just be strong. When your children start to say, what is that? What is that sound? I'm scared. You then begin to think twice. And this is me also speaking as a parent. So yes, people are, I'd say, optimistic, but also cautious. You must also understand that there's a strong community bond going on. So people are engaging in different community WhatsApp groups and online platforms and sharing, their fears. Also good to mention that the government as well as private sector have launched different platforms to support people with mental health, whatever they need in terms of mental health. So even in schools, this is going on. So there's that sense of community going on. People know that they're not going through this alone. Matter of fact, one of the platforms I was on, someone said they were afraid to go to the mosque to pray. As you know, it is Ramadan, and they were concerned because they live alone. I don't want to go by myself. And just people, strangers who find themselves in this situation saying, we're with you. If you need help, I can come with you. Don't worry, you're safe. We're together in this. So there's a strong sense of community going on right now. Yes, people are worried. We're only humans. So no matter how much you see the government working and intercepting, you will get worried. And as I said, the general sense is people are feeling more safe in light of what the government is doing. They know that the government has it, I wouldn't say under control. They are working to keep things under control. There's a strong sense of community. There is mental health support available free of charge if anyone is in need. So it is people making the best of the situation. But do they have confidence in the government? Yes, that is without question.
Well,
So just before I let you go again, in businesses, how has it been impacted? Because that's quite critical as well.
Yes, so the stock it is shut down for now, and businesses are open, so no one is necessarily shutting down. Like I said, most people have switched to remote work. Those who are not able to are going to the office, essential workers, delivery riders. So people are still talking about, oh, I booked a spa session. Restaurants are still open for those who want to venture out. So there is a lot of that still going on. Would there be an impact? Of course. Like I said, this time is pretty much peak tourist season. People are coming to enjoy the great weather before the real summer kicks in. So people are trying to get out. No one will particularly be looking to come to UAE to visit. Now, not the average person will say, oh yeah, this is the time to book a flight to go to the UAE and have a great time. So there will definitely be impact. The extent to which we're not able to tell just now, it really would be in the coming weeks and coming months that we would see the impact on real estate. Like I said, real estate, it really thrives on UAE being a safe country. So in the coming weeks and months, we will see how this will be impacted. But as of now, I believe everyone is just trying to stay safe and see how this situation can be de-escalated.
I know we promised that was going to be the last one, but this should definitely be the last one. Air travels. We know a lot of people had to transit through either Dubai, wherever in the UAE, understandably, right? That's a major travel hub. So what is the situation for those who may have been stranded or a bit uncertain?
They call it exceptional flights. So the aviation is called it is exceptional flights, which I believe are repatriation flights. Full-on commercial flights are not active as of this moment. But that's on the one hand. On the other hand, people who are desperate to get out are finding alternative means of doing so. We know that people are driving all the way to Oman. Some people are driving all the way to, getting on the road and going all the way to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia to sort of find whatever airport is open, just get me out of here. And it's quite interesting. A lot of people who are seeking such alternative transportation report exorbitant fares. So people are looking for private jets even to leave the region. For those who have money, say over $100,000 and even up to $350,000. Certain people who have the money are saying, just get me out of here. And that's what we're seeing. In the coming days, we will keep track of it, as you know. We'll keep tabs on the situation and, of course, let you know how this is going on.
well, indeed, you know what they say about when a war starts, knowing when it starts, but never knowing when it ends. And, of course, counting the losses also could be quite depressing and monumental. And we hope that this ends soon, such that, loss will be minimal. Our correspondent, Mayo Adegoke, talking to us, bringing us up to speed with the impact of this escalation of, a conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. Thank you, Mayo Adegoke. We'll touch base with you yet again when there's more to tell. We'll take a moment now. When we return, it'll be time to explore domestic issues that are just as important. We'll be having a member of the House of Representatives join us shortly. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Honorable Clement Jimbo joins us. He's a member representing Abak Etimekbo Ika Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Honorable, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Honest TV. Thank you, Jeffrey, and your crew. I'm very delighted to interface with you at this point.
Let's see how much of issues we can binge through. I know that the APC Congress is coming up today at the state level, but before we go to those issues, it would not be fair for us not to allow you weigh in on what is playing out in the Middle East as far as the war is concerned. This has been a long time coming. Iran being attacked by Israel, and of course they will say who is the aggressor. Everybody's debating who is the aggressor here. Israel and United States comment on Iran and Iran retaliatory attacks. We've seen distortions in the region. In fact, as a matter of fact, I was listening to someone say this is more like a Republican playbook. Cut taxes for the rich, some access to the poor, drop bombs in the Middle East looks like a Reagan thing, a George Bush thing, the senior, and then the junior George Bush, and then now we have President Donald Trump. But how are you weighing in on what's playing out in the Middle East?
Okay, thank you very much. It is important to equally buttress the point that the tensions we are having among countries and even within countries has been a long-age tradition, or should I say, of how the world was created, or how God created the earth in the first place. I've read in my Bible many times how nations have locked head with other nations, Israel, Egypt, and the rest of the world that we've read in the Bible. So it didn't start today. It has only gotten to another level where sophisticated weapons that possibly were not used in those days have been manufactured, and the tempo raised to unimaginable heights, where they don't even need to fight physically. You can stay remotely and obliterate an entire nation or a section of an entire nation. It really calls for concern. And that is where Nigeria as a country should really look inward and strengthen what needs to be strengthened within ourselves. Because just like your colleague said, that you only know when it starts. You can never know to what extent it will escalate to, and the duration of how it will, when it will last. So Nigeria should really brace up. And if you look at the critical countries in this very quagmire, so to say, USA and Israel on one hand, and Iran on the other hand, and if you look at the relationship between Nigeria and the US and the Israelis, they are very cordial, they are very deep, they are very entrenching. So if anything happens that have a spiral effect on, let me say, West Africa or Africa as a whole continent, what becomes the fate of Nigeria? That is really my worry at this point as a member of the parliament. How should our president be thinking? And how should Nigerians be thinking? What about our military, our Air Force capabilities? What should be our top pattern at this point in time? If all the different trade relationship, diplomatic relationship that we are having with this country is severed as a result of this tension, what should be our thinking? What should we be doing right now? That is my really concern, if you ask me, Mr. Jeffrey.
Well, let's see how this will pan out. We don't know how it would end. Donald Trump has said 4 weeks. You can't define the end of a conflict. In fact, if you look at it deeply, some would say it's a Western civilization fights freedom, Western civilization freedom war against these fundamental Islamic ideologues, the Shiites. So that's why I say, depending on who you're speaking to, their definition of what they're dealing with is quite different. But let's come home to what we've been dealing with for a while, which has to do with the Electoral Act amendment, which for now, some groups, including the opposition CSOs, are saying there needs to be a bit more clarity. We had a town hall on Sunday where the INEC chairman, your chairman of the APC, and several other stakeholders were seated. And it looks like what has played out is that the APC, what I call institutional gaming smartly, looks like the only house that is ready practically for the next election, given the shortness of time to be able to put house in order and have primaries. In fact, do you feel that the APC actually adopted its policy into the Electoral Act? For instance, the APC started off the direct primaries. There were 3 options: direct, indirect, and consensus. Now we have only direct and consensus. And now, according to section 77, which is a very important section every political party must pay attention to, subsection 2 talks about maintaining a digital register and a physical register. Subsection, I think, 4 talks about reducing the number you must submit that register to INEC from 30 days, as in the previous act, to 21 days ahead of the primaries. And then, if you do not do that, in subsection 7 of 77, which is the new act, it says that you will not be able to field candidate. Do you think that the APC smartly worked on this to the point where this may affect the ability of the opposition to be able to do anything reasonable in terms of the next election?
Well, thank you very much. You know, being smart is part of the characteristics of a human being that everybody must inculcate. And that is what, to a very great extent, distinguish many human beings from other human beings, and even nations from nations. Ability for you to think outside the box and to be equally to maybe move into the mind of possibly your opponent to know what he's thinking and re-strategize to counter if his strategy is going to outsmart you. So coming back home, the political party that you just mentioned, the All Progressives Congress, which of course is my own political party as well, was not in government in 1999 and up to 2014. So PDP was in government. They had all the time and all the day and even all the resources to have given Nigerians the best possible electoral system, but they failed. So the All Progressives Congress has gotten the ample opportunity to give Nigeria the best possible transparent electoral process. And if you observe the indirect primaries, it was completely against Nigerians, many of the Nigerians, many of the electorates. Because if you define democracy as the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, if the majority of the people are not participant in electing who becomes their flag bearer, their candidate, then it wasn't democracy. It was something else. That was the reason why many godfatherism were introduced into our electioneering processes. You must know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 important personalities that you must literally lick their boots, wash their cars, carry their children to school, do all their house chores for you to be considered important or merit to be nominated or recommended to become maybe a local council chairman, a councillor, a ward chairman, a House of Assembly member, even House of Reps, even up to senator. But now that we have an opportunity to amend this, we said no. Let the real merit and intent of how we have defined democracy come to be. Let the people that elect the officials, let it begin from electing them to become the candidate in the first place. So we sponge out the indirect way of electing candidates, which is indirect primaries. Let it be either consensus or direct primaries, where, let me say, all of the political party members will queue behind who they so choose to become their candidates in the next election. So we have done that, and you've highlighted section 77, subsection 1 to 7, which is very critical. You know, it is important that preparation for election must not start on the election day. It begins the moment INEC has declared the times table for election, which in the 2022 Electoral Act that we have just distinguished was, or should I say extinguished, was for 360 days, 1 year. But now the current act, which is 2026 Electoral Act, says 180 days, 6 months. So for now, okay, yes, still 1 year. Everybody should be aware that election begins from when INEC has announced the elected officials in the previous election. And any right-thinking political party that wants to file in credible candidate and to reposition its political party in the face of Nigerians to be considered as credible must equally have begun the preparation long before now. Section 77, subsection 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 clearly outlines what political parties must do. And if you also look at this very provision, it is going to cure a lot of dishonest activities perpetrated by political parties, especially where a political party has conducted its primaries and some certain people are not favored to become the candidates of that party. And the next thing is for them to jump into another political party immediately.
Honorable Jimbo, if I may come in there, pardon me, I wonder if other political parties, especially the opposition, are on all fours with you and indeed your party on this particular one, because the interpretation being given to the introduction of the clause on direct primaries is that, you know, it has stifled the opposition and made it unable, you know, to catch up with the timeline of preparations to produce a candidate. And beyond that, it is also contradicting the official position of the administration through the judiciary that indeed the party affairs remain party affairs and should not be dictated by external members.
Yeah, let me put some square pegs in square holes there. See, it is the political parties that throw up candidates that will stand election, which eventually will govern a nation. And if the process is flawed, if the process is discriminatory, what that simply means, the leader that eventually emerged through such a system would transmit such characteristics to the larger Nigerians by bringing in nepotism, by bringing in discrimination to govern the rest of us. And in the All Progressives Congress, we are saying no. Let the indirect primaries, which is capable of endangering our leadership processes in Nigeria, be expunged. And let me also put it on record. The moment this element of amendment that were contemplated by the National Assembly and even the civil societies,
Honorable Jimbo, pardon me, the question is, why is, you know, the National Assembly legislating on it in the first place? Why shouldn't political parties be allowed to manage their affairs by themselves? If they choose to go the way of indirect primaries, fine, it's their business, it's their personal business. If they choose to go the way of direct primaries, it's their business. So the question is, why was the legislation considered in the first place? Why wasn't it left open?
It shouldn't be their business alone. Yeah, it shouldn't be their business alone to the political parties. If you ask me a question, how many political parties do we have in Nigeria? 19, maybe 20, maybe the next registration will bring it up to 25, 30. And put all the members of each of these political parties together. What is their number? What is their percentage as compared to Nigerians? Over 230 million Nigerians. The parliament is there to take the interest of Nigerians at the fore. We are elected members of the parliament representing the 774 local government areas in Nigeria. And we cannot just allow infinitesimal number in Nigeria to take a major decision that will affect the outcome of our collective patrimony. That is why the National Assembly came in. And of course, it is not just the decision of the National Assembly. Many of the civil societies have equally come to agree that this obnoxious way of electing candidates from political parties through indirect ways are inducing in the indirect way of electing candidates. That is where monies are induced. That is where the person that has the largest money bar gets the day, because he's able to buy votes, to buy the delegates. But we are saying that since you have that money, as much as you think you have, come and buy all your political party members. Let all of them queue, pay. Then we will know that indeed you are very rich. So that is one clause I think many Nigerians, if not all, should applaud National Assembly for making it indeed democratically elected candidates of the political party will emerge, not just somebody who doesn't even have the inkling of leadership, the brains to manage his own family, but he has the money. However he acquired the money, God knows how, but he used it to buy his way into sensitive and responsible leadership position, which is not ready to discharge those responsibilities when he gets there. So we have deemed it necessary. Of course, You have said that we should have thrown it to the political party to decide whether or not. But of course, freedom is free, but even that freedom is dictated by the constitution of the party. I am seated down here with you having this conversation with my earpiece. I would have had the freedom of saying, okay, I'm not going to have my earpiece. Whatever how you need to connect for you to hear me, that's your business. But because you have invited me here, I need to equally make it possible for us to have this conversation. And for us to have this conversation, I need to comply with your directives, with your guidelines for us to have this smooth conversation. So the National Assembly has deemed it fit to see to it that Nigerians have credible candidates in the next general election. And don't forget, we don't just make law for the All Progressives Congress. The laws that we make is equally for every single political parties, including the All Progressives Congress, whether good or bad, we abide by them.
Well, Honorable, we must say that the game is the game. When you are making the law, the majority will always have the day. They will have their say and have the day. And most times, what the majority rules on is what favors the majority, right? So you've looked at it and said, which one will favor us and which one will put opposition at a disadvantage? It's what it is. Even when you're playing football, you try to tweak your team and your formation such that it favors you and disadvantages or puts the opposition at a disadvantage. But what we've seen so far, and that's coming day by day right after this law was passed and eventually signed by the president in record time, is that we need to take another look at it. Let us take another look at this law. We've had opposition, the civil societies, all of them say, let us take another look at it, and we have some time. As a responsive and responsible National Assembly, are you willing to take another look at this legislation?
Of course, that is why the parliament is there in the first place. When we resume, is it on the 7th, which it has been shifted to from 5th March to about 7th, by a week, when we resume and we look at it and there is any need for us to amend even the current Electoral Act, we will not waste time. That is why the parliament is to amend what needs to be amended. But I can tell you as a member of the parliament on this very particular section 77, subsection 1 to 7, it aligns with millions, with the aspirations of millions of Nigerians. Let the people, the party members, take part in electing who becomes their candidate. Their candidate. Their candidate. That is one of the ways to even test your popularity, to test your credibility. Do the people love you? Do your people love you?
What about
Are
Section 60?
You willing to communicate with your people?
Right. What about Section 60? Are you willing to look at it again? The part that concerns electronic transmission.
Section 60 say you may remind me, refresh my mind.
The one that concerns electronic transmission, the contentious Section 60.
Of course, we have copiously debated on this very particular section extensively.
So are you willing to look at it again, or that's it?
Yes, I know you have a car, and in your car you have a spare tire. That spare tire is there for a purpose. In case you are not praying that if you drive your car to your office, the 4 tires are going to be busted. But you keep the spare tire in case it happens, not because you want it to be busted. You can easily replace it and fix it and get to your destination. So that very clause 60 that says electronic transmission of results is a must, but we must also add the form EC8 as a manual calculation in case there are technical network glitches. We cannot shy away from that.
But Honorable Jimbo,
but in case it happens, we will not completely be thrown into oblivion.
Honorable Jimbo,
Let's get that very straight.
When you talked about Section 77 earlier on, I believe that's the one that speaks to direct primaries. You talked about the responsibility of the National Assembly to legislate in line with the popular will of Nigerians, to protect Nigerians, to be able to choose from credible candidates. And Nigerians, in good numbers, demanded electronic transmission of results from the National Assembly amid this amendment exercise. Why did the House of Representatives make a U-turn on its earlier decision on electronic transmission of results, which was passed in December 2025? Why didn't it, align with the will of the people in its decision?
Let me also say this. In the parliament, that is why we have the Senate and the House of Reps. Like we in the House of Reps, we are mainly young people who believe that things can be done faster and thoroughly. But in the Senate, they came up with a different opinion, which they equally pointed it out to us. We reasoned with them, just like the knowledge they have just given. A car that drives without a spare tire, if anything happens, you are likely going to be stuck. But if you have a spare tire, you can simply replace it and continue your journey to your destination. That argument is well placed. And let me also say this. The last election, FCT election, all the results were transmitted. There was no incident. So we are not saying that it will happen. But we are also thinking, playing the devil's advocate here. If in case it happens, no matter how your child is in need or loves a car, you cannot go to a Rolls Royce stand and buy that your child a 1.2 billion naira worth of a car. You will start him with a bicycle. Let him learn to drive and fall. Then you progress to a toy car that you can circulate him within your compound. Before he gets to 18 years, that we need to train him on how to drive a car on the road. So this thing is one step at a time. Even the advanced democracy that we celebrate today, if you check their histories, you will know they made their progress bit by bit, bit by bit. Nigeria will certainly get there. We will even have election materials, result transmitted. And even electronic.
Honorable, we're totally out of time. We wish we had more time.
One at a time.
Maybe when we come back, invite you again. We'll talk about your state and your constituency and all of that. I don't have much time on it. But I've listened to all of the arguments, and as they say, the game is the game. The APC will not do things that will not favor them. So that's the way some people are looking at it. You know why I'm smiling about this proviso? It's to the effect that you cannot even vote if you're not accredited electronically by INEC. That is how strict INEC is. If the BVAS fails, you cannot vote. You will come the next day, and it has to be electronic accreditation. That's what people are asking. No alternative in this sense. But everybody has their own argument. But must thank you.
Let me just keep in there just a few seconds. APC government led by Tinubu removed fuel subsidy. That was not palatable to the political party.
No, Honorable, that's why. So we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back again. Your house is in order. We wish you the very best. Today is your Congress. I wish all of you the very best. Clement Jimbo, member representing Bakitimekwe Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. I wish you the best. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate Nigeria.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk security. We're going back to international and national security. We'll be joined by a Commodore who is retired to bring us his expertise as far as these conflicts are concerned. Stay with us.
We're back in the Middle East. We'll never left, really, because all eyes are on that region. What is playing out between the U.S., Israel, Iran. Now we have other countries in the region involved. And we're joined on the program by former naval officer, Commodore Promise Dapa, as we explore these issues. You're welcome to the program. I know a lot of this is happening in the sea. It's very interesting. The Strait of Hormuz, the fleet stationed, and all of that. So a lot of the launch, counter-launch, a lot of the impact is being felt on the sea. And we thought, let's have this conversation with you because you understand fully well the operations when it comes to the fleet, the sea and all of that. And I wonder for you, following this from when it broke that the U.S. and Israel launched a joint attack on Iran, killing the supreme leader, and how things have since spiraled with other countries in that region getting involved. How are you internalizing this?
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and good morning to all our viewers. Well, the problem we are seeing in the Middle East is not completely strange. It's a matter of when it will happen. The cards have always been on the table. We know the position of Iran. Iran is committed to not having a state of Israel, the anti-Semitism policies, and we know the position of Israel too, to ensure that Iran does not have the capability to be able to strike or to carry out their intentions. So the problem has always rested on a tripod. We have one, the leadership, the radical Islamic leadership of Iran. We have the nuclear capability issue and the missiles capability of Iran to be able to hit Israel. So all these things have been on the table, and Israel is committed to taking away these three capabilities. And they've also, with time, have built capacities in that direction. The major obstacle before now has been the issue of reach. The distance between Israel and Iran, you cannot fly that with your fighter planes without really stopping to refuel. But with the coming of the mid-air refueling system, it makes things easy, like we are talking sea basin, where air assets can take off from a platform at sea and be able to hit targets. All these things come together. And that was why Israel cannot really act until they could have a green light, a go from America, because the capability that America will bring into the fray is also very, very vital. They need that crucial support from America. And in warfare like this, alliance factor is also an issue. Israel needed a green light from America for them to be able to execute. And the previous regimes have not given Israel the necessary green light. And luckily now, Trump has come. They have an ally in Trump, a man that is on the same page, the same frequency with President Netanyahu. So it was not difficult for them to reach an agreement to seek an opportunity to be able to strike at Iran. So all the cards are set. Everything is on the table. The forces are there at sea and all the bases. America brought in their capabilities. Israel brought in their capabilities. And the joint force together is a combination of what we are seeing today in Iran.
But does it really look like Israel was waiting for a green light from the U.S., or Israel is dictating the pace? Because listening to the U.S. officials, particularly Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, saying they decided to attack because they knew that Israel was going to attack. So basically, Israel seemed to be dictating the tune, saying, okay, once Israel is moving, we'll follow them and make that decision. So really, what does it look like to you? Because from what we've heard, it doesn't look like the U.S. gave the green light. It looked the other way.
It might look that way outwardly, but definitely Israel will not move without a green light. Israel will not move without a say-so from the U.S. That is very, very critical, because the support, the alliance factor is what determines. And you can see also Iran, how far Iran can go in this whole fight depends on the alliance factor. Who is backing them up? When you're in a war like this that is internationalized, how far you can go depends on who is backing you up. Who are your friends? Who are your allies? Because in terms of cost, in terms of capacity that will be brought to bear, Israel alone cannot do it. They would have done it. If they are the one dictating and they are bent on it, they would have done it since. But it was very, very important for America not just to give the green light, but to be a part of that action. So to me, Israel might be the initiator. They might be the ones trying to dictate the action, but on the whole, without America, a green light from America, Israel wouldn't have still gone, because otherwise this would have happened much longer before now. But they needed a green light from the White House, and not just a green light, but an ally that will be fully on board, not just watching from the sideline. And President Trump is not just giving the green light, he is fully on board.
Now let's speak to what is happening on Middle East soil itself. We've seen U.S. installations attacked in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain. Do you expect that this will increase hostilities among Middle East nations rather than, increase sympathies from Iran's neighbors for Iran amid this escalating conflict?
Of course, the gladiators in this conflict are very strong people. They are very proud, arrogant people, and they always like to maintain their lines. They make their threats and they follow up. U.S. has insisted they are going to hit Iran, and the mission is to degrade the nuclear facilities, destroy Iran's capability to launch missiles, and also to deal with the radical leadership. And Iran has also threatened that if U.S. strike, they are going to internationalize the conflict by striking other U.S. interests in the region. And that is what has played out. U.S. has gone ahead to carry out their threat, and Iran has also gone ahead to carry out their threat. And we remain to see how it goes. And what plays out also later on will also depend on the U.S. If U.S. is not, if U.S. comes in and restrain the countries of the Middle East from actively joining the fray, then we might see a de-escalation. But on the other hand, if things boil over, then the Middle East country decided to not just be on the defensive, but to join the fray, then we might see escalation. Then other countries too might take sympathies, either join Iran or join the Middle East countries. We will see a polarization of the world, and the stage will be staged for a more serious global conflict. But I don't think it will get to that level.
And nobody wants it to get further than this, Commodore. But let's look at certain things people are saying. Where I think we know what Israel and America want. They don't want those capabilities by Iran, given the fact that they have their axis of resistance in the people that have been classified as terrorists across the region. And those regions are quite significant. For instance, of course, there's the Persian Gulf, and then the Gulf of Oman, where you have the Straits of Hormuz, where when things like this happen, can bring a chokehold to that shipping line that transports significant portion of oil across the world. So either going to Eastern Asia, or going to Europe through the Red Sea, or going to Americas through Southern Africa. So if you look at what is going on, people are saying that on one hand, Israel doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons, but Israel has its own nuclear weapons. They are not signed to the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In fact, I think Resolution 487 of 1981, the United Nations Security Council had cautioned Israel to put their nuclear facility under the safeguard of the IAEA. I don't know whether they ever did. So on one hand, it looks like the nuclear ambiguity is giving them a lack of a moral high ground to be able to say Iran cannot do what they do. How do you weigh in on it?
Okay, thank you. You see, the issue is not about Iran having a nuclear capability. Iran is not the only country that have had such capabilities. There are other middle-level countries that have also had such capabilities. And nobody is crying foul or saying you cannot have it. But when a country comes out and vows that it cannot see the existence of another country, a neighboring country, that it is committed to wiping other country from the face of the map, then it sends a signal. Then such a person cannot be armed or should not be allowed to have the capability to be able to carry that threat. And we are seeing the kind of government that we have in Iran. When they make a threat, they follow through. Iranian government that is committed to wiping, in fact, anti-Semitism is like a creed, is a religion in Iran. It's something that they imbibe in every Iranian, that the state of Israel cannot live, it's not supposed to exist. And that is the crux of the matter. How do you now arm such a person and he's building ballistic missiles that have the reach to strike Israel? All that is required, once he has that capability, he attaches the nuclear weapon to the ballistic missile, and Israel, within a matter of seconds, will be wiped off the map. That's the crux of the matter. If you're in the position of Israel, what do? You allow the enemy, you allow such a country to develop that capacity, Then you now build defensive capacity. Who has brought any defensive capability against a nuclear weapon so far? Look at the conventional warhead as attached to those ballistic missiles, the level of destruction and carnage is causing, not to talk of when it's armed with nuclear missile. So that's something you don't want to experience. And that's something no serious government should wait to happen. So Israel, based on that fact that, based on Iran's anti-Semitism policy, based on Iran's commitment to see to the obliteration of Israel as a nation state, then of course they have a right to act in self-defense. And they have the right to carry out preemptive actions. They have every duty to ensure that that nuclear facility does not come to light. And if they have an ally like America too, and of course, when they have that capability, it's not only Israel that's going to suffer, every other American interest around the world will also be at the brunt. And you have to know that every day Iran is developing more missile capability. They have gone from short range to middle range. Now they are seeking for long distance range. And the moment they can go 10,000, 20,000 kilometers with nuclear weapon, then America itself is not safe. They will test it out on America. So that's why you can see these nations are insisting that Iran must not be in possession of nuclear weapon because of their intentions.
So does this make, Commodore, does this make peace impossible? Because it looks like no one will shift grounds. And I'm positing two ways. For instance, when they had the Shah of Iran, who was pro-Western, ideologies and policy that led to the revolution that brought in these fundamental ideologues who have pushed Sharia and are very fundamental in their ways, and anything Western culture, they have their reservation about it. We can go on and on. And you see, Israel, they have said, look, they want to annihilate Israel on one hand. Israel is insisting that they would not, in collaboration with America, allow Iran to build nuclear capability, at least the long-range capability, or any range at all, if it's possible, because of fear of possible attack, as you've listed. It looks like everybody has both fear and aspirations that is difficult to be able to shift ground. So if this ever gets to the negotiating table, what do you think will be able to bring peace to that table?
Definitely, there will always be peace when the time comes, because the balance of power will dictate who calls the shot. Now, and there's no doubt that the balance of power is on the side of the US and Israel. In the next few days now, what Iran has left now, in the first rehearsal of this war that took place last year, a large chunk of the missile capability of Iran was destroyed. Before then, in 2027-23, it was, said that they have at least up to 3,000 missile stockpile. So a large part of that, if not a quarter, up to half of it was destroyed during the last incident, which also report has it that they have tried to rebuild. They don't know the quantity to what level they have rebuilt now. And in that first strike, a large part of the missile also were taken out, and the capability to also launch that missile was also destroyed. And Israel has vowed that in the next wave that is coming up, or maybe about going on now, that they will also target that capability. So what I'm trying to say, I don't know how long Iran might be able to hold on with the stockpile of missiles they have. So if this war goes on in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, as Trump has claimed, in the first day, 1,200 bombs were dropped on Iran over 1,000 sites, comprising of over 500 aircraft were used. Israel alone vectored about 200 aircraft. A lot come from America and other neighbors. So it's really huge. And I don't know how long Iran can withstand this pounding, because from my own take, I think that Israel is going to give Iran the Gaza treatment. After now they've taken away their air defense capabilities. So the Israel and America have an open sky. Now they fly in and out of Iran the way they want, how they want it. So Iran is going to come under serious bombardment. So in the next 12 months, if this bombardment continues, the Gaza treatment continues, I don't think Iran will be able to sustain. They will really sue for peace. they will call for negotiation, and by the time they go to the negotiation table, I don't think they will have too much to really hold on to. So peace will naturally come, yes, because the balance of power is in favor of US and Israel, and they will dictate the terms of the peace.
Right, it sounds straightforward the way you have put it, but there's still different complex layers to all of this. There's still, the complexity of the motive in that sense, and then all the other issues around the relationship between the US and the nations around Iran, who are taking the big hits now, and the US is far away, sort of insulated from all of this. But here's my question as we wind down, Commodore. So there's all of, the violence, attacks, and counterattacks playing out in the Middle East. And then there is Nigeria. And we've had a lot of people think, what is Nigeria's capability, really, when it comes to war? God forbid. But, these things are never off the table. You were in the Navy, and a lot of people will say, well, just pray that these things don't come close to Nigeria, because we don't know what our capabilities are. But you understand very well. What are our capabilities when it comes to defending ourselves and perhaps even going on the offense?
Thank you very much. I'm very, very glad you asked this question. You brought this home, because this should be the real issue. And this is what nobody will tell anybody in this country. Let me start this way. When I joined the armed forces almost about 4 decades ago, the Nigerian Navy in particular has missile capabilities. Nigerian Navy had a frigate called the Aradu. That frigate was built 3 in the world by Germany. Nigeria bought one, UK bought one, Argentina bought the other. This is a vessel, it carries 2 missiles, surface to surface and surface to air. It can fight underwater, fight in the air, fight on the surface. It had a capacity of almost a division. We have about 6 missile boats. Exhausted missile was the latest missile in surface-to-surface naval warfare, Nigeria air missile. We have anti-submarine. We didn't have a submarine, we have anti-submarine capabilities. We could fight submarine through the ship, we could fight submarine by helicopters. And these were all the capabilities that were available to Nigeria in the 80s. Then when you go to the army, for instance, the army has some of the latest tanks. The Abrams tank was the latest tank in tank warfare. The Nigeria had them. The T-55 was the latest artillery weapon in the army warfare. Army had them. The latest weapons, we had all those things. Where are we now? When people are talking of ECOMOG, it is all these assets that we had that were procured by the Shagari regime of the early 80s. That when all this reformation of the army, re-equipment of the army took place. It is those weapons that we have that were able to do what we did in ECOMOG.
Right.
So when people come and they say Nigeria has capacity, you can do this, they have done in ECOMOG, they have done in the war. It is because you had the equipment then, but you have them now.
Big question,
as I speak now, these things are not hidden things. We don't have any missile capability in this country. If you want to talk of air defense, anti-missile capability, that's rocket science you are even talking about. No missile capability, no missile boat in the Navy, no submarine, no anti-submarine capability. That is where we are. We can't defend our territorial waters. No defense, no air defense system. So these are things, serious issues that should give us sleepless nights. And that is why a common non-state actor, Boko Haram, has laid us prostrate. We have grappled with Boko Haram for over 15 years without any headway. Now we are not even waiting for countries like Iran or people with missile to overrun us. We run the risk of being overrun by non-state actors like Boko Haram and ISIS. That is the risk that's facing us.
Well,
we can't even find our way out of the morass. It's a very serious issue.
Indeed,
now,
absolutely, Commodore. And let's just hope that some of these things are being kept as the best kept secret just so we don't expose it to the world. But you have made very valid points, Commodore, and these are the kinds of conversations we expect behind closed doors, where the CNC is speaking with these people. But Commodore, that question was very important, and it was important that you spoke to it, and we're grateful that we've had you speak to these issues. Former Naval Officer Commodore Promise Dapper. Clearly, we'll be having you in the coming days to still speak to some of these issues, but we have to thank you so much, not just for your time, but for your service as well. We'll take a moment now. When we return, there's still more for you on the program. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's get back to politics. 2027 is ahead of us. The Electoral Act has been signed, sealed, and delivered. Controversy ensued from it. They're asking for a re-amendment of the amendment. And now primaries are up for just about 1 month or two. And so there's a lot of rush at this moment politically. Let's bring in the national chairman of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, Bishop Amakri, joining us virtually from Port Harcourt, the River State capital. Bishop Amakri, thank you for coming on the program. Bishop, can you hear us? Oh, there. Let's try again. Bishop, can you hear us?
Good morning, Kayode.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with your network, but we hope we can squeeze in a few questions because of the time we have. But I want to throw in a quote from, there's an open letter written by Professor of Strategy and Development, Anthony Killer, to the president. He said, so this is an excerpt of that quote. He said, Mr. President, over 80% political support from elected leaders will still be troubling in any sane society, for politics is not theology. Leaders are not gods. An agreement, when it approaches unanimity, stops being evidence of excellence and starts becoming evidence of fear, convenience, and calculation. There's another part, again, if my producer can get back to it. Yes, history is unkind to moment of excessive uniformity, not because unity is bad, but because coerced or opportunistic unity hollows out meaning. A democracy where power faces no meaningful resistance begins to confuse applause for approval and silence with consent. Such a system may feel stable in the short term, but it becomes brittle in the long run. In other words, he's saying, this defection teetering towards a one-party state, now we have 30 governors in the APC, it's not good for the polity, especially with what we're seeing with the big parties. How are you weighing in on this, Bishop?
Thank you, Mr. Geoffrey. First, let me also let Nigeria know that what we are seeing today in our politics is, I would say, it's a self-inflicted, disease that Nigerians actually feel, kind of inflicted on themselves. How did we get here, for example? It's because Nigerians voted for some persons. You keep hearing people saying the vote does not count. Who told you vote does not count? You see, when people have chanted to you, not told you that power is taken by force. What it means is that they are telling you that they are ready to die. They are ready to do every sort of thing to say that they take power. And then if the people also resist that strategy of this power is taken by force and say, no, you cannot take power by force. We also want to take governance by force. Now, you now compare between somebody who wants to take power and the people who want real governance. Which one goes, better? The people who want good governance also have to stand for that governance which they want by force, in ensuring that the people who come into power must be people whom they elected into power. So now this is where the missing point is. The missing point is that the electorate themselves, what have they done in contributing to ensure that they stand fit on the day of election by not allowing themselves to be induced. Electoral, inducement, for example, also is, the reason why we are where we are today. When people already have, a mindset that the only time they make some little token of money, 5,000, 10,000 on election day, and buy their votes. So for me, Geoffrey, honestly, at some point, if you notice, I try to refrain myself from talking these days, even on media or coming to. Why? Because we've been talking. We've been talking without action. Nigerians have left governance in the hands of only politicians, forgetting that they are also critical stakeholders in ensuring, that we build an egalitarian society of our dream. My opinion, for me, I feel that Nigerians need what I would call mind revolution. There must be mind revolution going forward in how we elect our leaders.
Mr. Makri, just before you came on, we had, quite an interesting conversation with the member of the House of Representatives, and we took him up on the position of the House on Electoral Act Amendment 2026 and specific items about direct party primaries and the Electoral Act Section 60, to be precise. And he was quite vehement in his position that the National Assembly has a responsibility to introduce legislation that would guarantee the ability of Nigerians to elect credible leaders, and that, as far as electronic transmission of results is concerned, development should be deliberate, not in a hurry. I wonder if you align with him on his position about those critical items on Electoral Act 2026, and perhaps if you have other reservations about the disposition of this current 10th Assembly on our electoral document.
The man you are talking about is not a member of APC. He's not the man I saw wearing APC cap.
Indeed, Honorable Clement Jimbo is a member of the House of Representatives from the APC ruling party.
Would you say this or APC?
APC.
APC. He's a member of APC. So what else did you expect him to say? You see, let me tell you, Nigerians were busy talking about the real-time electronic transmission of result, right? The Trojan horse strategy by this 10th Assembly, they were deceiving people with that Section 60, what do you call it? The real-time transmission of result, that section, which is in the Section 60. Not knowing that the real thing that they want to achieve, and that was why you could see that the jet speed in which the president even signed into that law, because they had already, these are things that they had already, state managed over the years or over time, and that is why you could see that even the APC started this the digital membership drive, some months back years ago, because they had already, the argument they keep giving to you is they will tell you that majority will have their way and that minority will always have their say. And the truth of the matter, what we have actually not interrogated strongly is it all the time that this majority, whatever they say, is it all the time that they are right? In most cases, 98%, especially in politics, whatever you hear majority saying, yay, and the government will be hit, it is actually not, it is to the detriment of the citizens. And I can tell you that any day, anytime. You could see that the voices of the minority is always the one making sense, that is aligning with the wishes of the citizens. So, but majority will always be in the politics, because many of them don't think about nation building. Many of them think about the next election, how they can win the next election. So you see, like I said, my dear sister, at some point I get to a point that sometimes I begin to ask. And the problem is that truly, these people have their way most times because there are also the electorate. Can you imagine, for example, let me give an example. Will be a place like APC will be assembling people for political activities. You see there, you see on the background, you ask yourself a question.
Bishop, we seem to be having... yes. Bishop, we could get in some of your thoughts, and they are well stated, but we seem to be having network connection as well as one for time. Maybe another rescheduling will be better for us so that we can get the full value of what you're important. You're a national chairman of a political party, so your opinion is very, very valid.
Before we go, maybe...
Yeah, you just have like 30 seconds. The network isn't working.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you properly. Just 30 seconds so that we don't have that distortion.
Okay. I'm very sorry. I wish that I have a better platform to be able to come on board. You know, these are networking. But let me, like you said, 30 seconds. This is my message. The National Assembly should know that they did not elect themselves to that National Assembly. The people elected them. And if they think that they will go in contrary, you know, what we call they are now deploying the Euphemism of still decapitated politics that they are playing now. Posterity will judge them in the future.
All right. Well said. Bishop Amakri is the national chairman of the YPP. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We do appreciate.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break now. When we come back after the break, we'll talk to women. It's National Women's Month, Women's Day. However you want to look at it, it's women's season right now. So we want to make the most out of it. Two ladies are joining us right here in our Lagos studios. Join us again.
Welcome back. And so let's get right into it. And joining us is Mrs. Margaret Ogutala, former president, Nigeria Society of Engineers. She's right here in our Lagos studio. And we also have Mrs. Tewa Onosoya, founder and chief executive officer, Exquisite Magazine. Thank you for joining us on the program, ma'ams.
Thank you for having us.
And you know, all these issues are related. Electoral Act, and you know, when you talk about the special seats for women bill, which there's been a strong advocacy for it in the last couple of months, and even prior to this time, and that's where I want to start from as we you know, begin to reflect on International Women's Day. What do you sense from the positioning of this 10th Assembly about either support or maybe, you know, neutrality towards the special seats for women's bill? Because this month's theme is about, you know, sustainable development and the role of women. I'd like to start with Mrs. Onosoya. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Right. Great morning again, and thank you for that question. And I love the part that you said that it's now about sustainability, because we can't just be talking about something and not looking for ways that it's going to be sustainable and ways to keep it. And hearing about the reserved seat for so long, and I think the postponement of it, and then, you know, some people for it, some people being neutral towards it. I think it's high time people who advocate for women empowerment and women inclusion just gets up and talks about it and takes action behind it as well. Because we've been doing a lot of talking for a while. It's high time we just, put the work behind our talk and get on with it. Because in as much as there's so many words being said about, yes, the seats for women needs to be occupied and things like that, we need to now start putting women in these places. And I believe we're starting, because a lot of women are starting to be in different positions, even in the corporate world as well. So it's just keeping that going and making sure that the women are well represented and the women are representing themselves as well.
Do you feel the sense of urgency from this 10th Assembly, particularly because the 2027 elections are upon us already, and that strong advocacy is there such that if the legislation is passed prior to that time, then women can have a head start in the next Assembly and indeed in the next government. But do you get that sense of urgency from the administration to incorporate this into the document?
Well, thank you. Not quite, really. The urgency is not as much as it should be, because this is something that is very important. The deliberate inclusion of women in legislation, and there is no way we can have real development without inclusion of women. We all know what women bring to the table. We are as naturally as we can, so a woman naturally brings a lot of positive impact, and unless we are deliberate in ensuring that women are included, then we might still be behind, politically and in terms of national development. So I believe that the 10th Assembly can do more. I like the fact that it's on the table, that it's being discussed. The matter is being discussed more now than ever before. But I think there is a need to fasten things up and ensure that well ahead of the next election, it is passed, and then women can confidently, show themselves.
And let me come in here, but I want to drag global events into this, because I think they're linked as well. If you look at the countries at war right now, they're all led by men. Right, and this is, I'm not trying to target men, but some have said if we had women as the leaders, maybe we won't push the buttons to launch the missiles. Maybe the women will say, let's have a conversation about this instead. No, nobody should die, and we've lost people on the side of the US. We have way more on the side of Iran, and there are other deaths not even reported. You see the hit that the global economy is taking as a result of these events, which is why it's important to push this agenda. Yes, call it an agenda, but push the agenda to have more women on the table. My wife will naturally say, let's have a conversation about this. But we'll say, I'm out to just take action, sometimes without thinking really deeply about it. So I want us to talk about how to then escalate this, perhaps in the private sector as well, because I think everything will then aggregate to make sure that we have a loud voice that will make it happen. You are a woman. You've gotten to the highest level, and I imagine there are higher levels for you. You're first president of the NSC, right?
First female president.
Female president. Yeah. Sorry, first female president of NSC in Nigeria. That's a big deal. So if we can replicate what worked for you for other women, how can we do it?
Well, it's not so difficult. We can do it by encouraging more women. Because the first thing is for a woman to believe in herself, and that starts from childhood. So nurturing girls, and teaching them to believe in themselves and to have confidence and to aspire, for leadership in high places and all that. And then, of course, that goes with self-development in every area of one's life. So I think it's something that's not so difficult to do. We'll start by, and the association we have the Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria, which is a division of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, going to as low as primary schools, to get girls to believe in themselves, to encourage them, to let them know that indeed they can aspire to be anything that they put their minds to. So I think that's what we need to do, to encourage women, and particularly in the professional area, we also have issues with the pipeline, losing women along the pipeline. Women need to sometimes take time off, to build their families, to have babies. But once the society understands all of that and does things and puts things in place to encourage them and to support them, then we won't have problems. We can start by having creches and workplaces, and lots of institutions, establishments, and organizations do that now, to support the women. So there's a lot that can be done.
And you were able to do this in a field that people believe is primarily for men, right? You were able to rise to the very top. Same for politics and governance as well. People believe that men naturally hold sway there, but absolutely we can push this agenda forward. And I know we always ask, what do women want, right? But I want to up it a bit. What do women need? But more importantly, what does this world today need to give women or allow women to have, such that we can have a better world, if that makes sense to you?
Right. Yes, it does make sense to me, and I completely agree with what Engineer Margaret has said. And one thing I would say or add to it is that women also need to be a bit more visible and stop shrinking, because and women need to drag other women up as well. And we also need men allies, men that would advocate. I mean, we have some of them in the National Assembly and the House fighting for the reserved seats, but it's a case of us putting that agenda forward and actively fighting towards, to make it happen. A lot of women, and yes, it does start with believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will anyway. But it also continues with the visibility on the women that are there already, highlighting that these women are in these positions, these women, first female president, NSA, that's a big thing. A lot of younger women, even middle-aged women, need to know that there's a representation of them at those kind of positions. So what we need is women at that positions coming out to show that, this is where we are, this is what we do, you too can get there. Men allies, advocating for women inclusion, advocating for women empowerment as well, and like I said, visibility is key. And I always say this, that a lot of women, I think it's because of, I believe it's because of how we've been cultured or how we've grown up, that you're supposed to, not toot your own horn, not say too much, don't show that you know so much. And a lot of people just want to be in the background. But it's high time everybody just spoke up. If you're successful in what you're doing, speak up about it, because you're not only speaking up for yourself, but you're encouraging other people to speak up as well. Whatever it is you're doing, shine the light on it. I always say that visibility is not vanity. It's a strategy. It's a strategy to propel you. It's a strategy to bring others up with you as well. So what we need is more women believing in themselves, believing in their abilities, and also showing up for other people to let them know that, yes, this is possible. And we also need men advocating for women. I'm sure a lot of men are now thinking more of helping or supporting women, because a lot of men have girls and they're thinking, okay, my girl is smart. And I'm saying this from a perspective of a woman that also has a son. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever's happening with the boy child, I don't want my child to go through it, because he's a human being as well. And whatever's going on with the girl child, I don't want my girl to go through it. So men are now looking up and thinking, okay, I want my daughter to be a medical doctor, to be an astronaut, to be the best DJ, to be the best XYZ. So if they're advocating for their children, that confidence, like we're talking about, is going to, start building in those children. I grew up in a home of 7 girls. I'm the first of 7 girls. And it was until I got into the world, when I say got into the world, when I got older and started working, that was when I started hearing, oh, you're a woman in XYZ, how do you feel? And I'm like, hold on, it never occurred to me that I was a girl or I was a woman in XYZ. I always thought that I was a human being, right?
Fantastic. We don't have so much time. I like to place the problem for you to solve. So the problem is that the system is rigged against you, culturally, economically, politically, socially. The list is endless. So it is rigged against you. So my question to you, madam, how do you intend to accelerate the change? Because it's leading the change as a campaign for the year.
Yes.
There has to be a way to accelerate the change. And I'll give you an example and your proposition in 30 seconds. There is the argument of seats. What will work for the men to allow that to happen? Is it extra seats or giving up one of the 3 seats? You understand what I mean?
Yes.
For instance, the Senate has 3 per state. Will the men agree to extra seats to make it 4 per state, or they have to give up 1? Because we need to accelerate the change, because we believe in women. What do you think? 30 seconds.
Giving up one of the seats is the best option in my opinion, because adding more seats still increases the percentage. So
And the budget.
And the budget.
Which is, one of the arguments against.
Yes. So we want just giving up one of the seats still gives us the 30% or 33.3%, which is the globally accepted percentage of, ratio of man to woman.
Madam, your thoughts? We're totally out of time, that's why.
I also think giving up the seat, because if we're not giving up any seat, then we're still continuing with what we've been continuing on anyway, with more men on the seat. But giving up one seat and put it out there for votes. Let the best man or woman win.
Absolutely, and let the negotiations continue. Whatever has to give such that can sail through should be considered.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but we must anchor at this point. And thank you so much, ma'ams, for coming on the program. We've been talking with Margaret Oguntala, former president, the first female president of the Nigeria Society of Engineers, and of course, not forgetting Tewa Onosoya, founder, CEO, Exquisite Magazine. Thank you for helping me achieve parity on a rare occasion on the program.
Thank you. Men are outnumbered.
No, you're actually outnumbered us. Mama, thank you so much for your time and company. We're he for she's, and we hope that a woman will be elected in one of these primaries one of these days. So you have my vote, right?
And I can testify that these gentlemen are he's for she. So thank you, Jeffrey and Kadi. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Bukola, what do you want?
I'll tell you after the show.
Well, I'm Kayode Okikilo. Stay with us right on Channels Television. Goodbye.